Alright, students, now we will continue with the second part of the story, The Rat Trap by Salma Legaloff. So, we get to see that the stranger, the ragamuffin, the vagabond, the Rattrap Peddler is also a thief, and he had robbed the 30 chrono of the old crofter who believed him so much and revealed all his private affairs to the man. Now, the man did not take the highway and took the lane of the forest to reach any destination because he did not have a permanent dwelling house. So finally he was walking in the forest and walking, but he could not find a way. And the same idea that he harbored within his mind, that this whole world is like a rat trap, again came back to him. He thought that this time he has fallen a trap in the temptation offered. And now he is trapped, and very soon he is going to face his end. So now what happens? It was late in December. It was the coldest month. It was late in December. Darkness was already descending over the whole forest. This increased the danger and increased also his gloom and despair. So finally he was getting depressed more and more. He was getting sad that I think there is no other way to escape. I am trapped in the rat trap of this big world just because I gave myself to the temptation of stealing that 30 chrono rupees. Finally, he saw no way out and he sank down on the ground, tired to death, thinking that his last moment had come. But just as he laid his head on the ground, he heard a sound, a hard, regular thumping sound. Thumping means as if something is being, bitten onto something else, something hard. There was no doubt as to what that was. He raised himself just at the moment he was losing all his hope. He heard a sound that indicated the existence of some place nearby in the forest. He raised himself. Those are the hammer strokes from an iron mill, he thought. There must be people nearby. He summoned all his strength, got up and staggered. Staggered means walk in a stumbling way because he was totally exhausted, in the direction of the sound. Now what was it? The Ramsjo Ironworks, the same iron works where the old crofter worked. The Ramsjo Ironworks, which are now closed down, where not so long ago a large plant with smelter, rolling mill and forge. In the summertime, long lines of heavily loaded barges, that is cargoes and irons and scows, slid down the canal which led to a large inland lake. And in the winter time, the roads near the mill were black from all the coal dust which sifted down from the big charcoal crates. During one of the long dark evenings, just before Christmas, so it was just before the Christmas time, who is present in the iron factory at that point of time when the stranger arrived there? Underline, the master smith and his helper, apprentice, sat in the dark forge near the furnace waiting for the pig iron. Pig iron means the raw iron which had been put in the fire to be ready to put on the anvil. Every now and then one of them got up to steer the glowing mass with a long iron bar, returning in a few moments dripping with perspiration. It was too hot there. They were working in front of the furnace, though as was the custom he wore nothing but a long shirt. Now who is this he? This he wore nothing but a long shirt and a pair of wooden shoes. So, returning in a few moments, dripping with perspiration, it was hot, and he was wearing just a long shirt and a pair of wooden shoes. That is the custom to wear for a laborer in the factory, in that furnace. All the time there were many sounds to be heard in the forge. The big bellows groaned and the burning coal cracked. The fire boy shoveled charcoal into the maw of the furnace with a great deal of clatter. Outside roared the waterfall, and a sharp north wind whipped the rain against the brick-tiled roof. So you see, these are the sounds. Second last paragraph, these are the sounds that can be heard in that point, on that point of time in the forest. What are the sounds? Sound number 1, the big bellows groaned. Sound number 2, burning coal cracked. Sound number 3, the fire boy shoveled charcoal into the maw of the furnace. Sound number 4, the waterfall. And sound number 5, sharp north wind whipped the rain against the brick-tiled roof. It was too chilly. It was probably on account of all this noise that the blacksmith did not notice that a man, this man is the Rattrap Peddler, had opened the gate and entered the forge until he stood close up to the furnace. Surely it was nothing unusual for poor vagabonds without any better shelter for the night to be attracted to the forge by the glow of light which escaped through the sooty panes and to come in to warm themselves. Okay, so it is nothing unusual. Vagabonds and strangers and vagrant dwellers come to this place, and they just come here to take rest. Okay, poor vagabonds, they take a shelter for the night. Okay, so it was the sooty pains, that is the smoke, the fumes that emitted due to the pig iron that was being melted. So vagabonds often come over here. All right, so the blacksmiths glanced only casually. Why? Because they are habituated to seeing such vagabonds coming to take a shelter for the night. So the blacksmiths glanced only casually and indifferently at the intruder. So a new name being given, the intruder. He looked the way people of his type usually did, with a long beard. So the appearance of the Rattrap Peddler, a long beard underlined, dirty, ragged, and with a bunch of rat traps dangling on his chest. He asked permission to stay, and the master blacksmith nodded a haughty consent. So a proud consent, haughty means. Without honoring him with a single word, he was just given a gesture that allows him to sit over there or stay over there for the night. The tramp, again a new name, the tramp did not say anything either. He had not come there to talk, but only to warm himself and sleep for the night. In those days, the Ramsjo iron mill underlined was owned by a very prominent ironmaster whose greatest ambition was to ship out good iron to the market. He watched both night and day to see that the work was done as well as possible, and at this very moment he came into the forge on one of his nightly rounds of inspection. So you see, the iron master was very strict and severe and was very serious in his work. He was a man of work. So he came there for his rounds of inspection coincidentally at that point of time only. Naturally, the first thing he saw was the tall ragamuffin, who had eased his way so close to the furnace that steam rose from his wet rags. So he was slipping very close to the furnace in order to warm himself up. He was cold. He walked all the way to the forest. The ironmaster did not follow the example of the blacksmith. What is the example? To just give a casual glance. No, he noticed the man minutely, who had hardly deigned to look at the stranger. Deign means to feel it necessary. He walked close up to him. The ironmaster looked him over very carefully, then tore off his slouch hat to get a better view of his face. So, The man was sleeping with the hat on his face. So the ironmaster put the hat a bit up to have a better view of his face. "But of course it is you, Nils Olof. How you do look!" The man with the rat traps had never before seen the ironmaster at Ramsjo and did not even know what his name was. But it occurred to him that if the fine gentleman thought he was an old acquaintance, he might perhaps throw him a couple of kroner. Therefore, he did not want to undeceive. Undeceive means to tell the truth right away and raise the veil of deceit him all at once. So you see, this man is an opportunist. He at once understood that this man, the manager of the Ramsjo Ironworks, the owner, the proprietor, is thinking me to be his old friend or maybe any old acquaintance called Nils Olof. So he did not want to make him he did not want to make him feel or understand that he is not Nils Olof. Rather, he acted in such a way to make him believe that yes, he truly is Nils Olof, whoever he is, in the hope of getting some more money, some more sympathy from the proprietor of the Ramsjo Ironworks. Yes, God knows things have gone downhill with me. So you see, he started telling lie and started acting like Nils Olof. "You should not have resigned from the regiment," said the ironmaster. "That was the mistake. If only I had still been in the service at the time, it never would have happened. Well, now of course you will come home with me." So you see, the man whom the manager of the Ramsjo Ironworks is confusing with is an old friend or a comrade or a regiment of the army, an old friend of this man called Nils Olof. So he is telling that if you wouldn't have resigned from the army, you would have got a better life. If I would have been there at that time, I would have never allowed my friend to resign from the army. And now the problem is he is requesting him to come home, to go along up the Manor House and be received by the owner like an old regimental comrade. That, however, did not please the tramp. He thought, no, this is not a good idea, because initially he is confusing him to be his old friend, but gradually things will be explored. The truth will come out. So he did not think it to be a good idea. So what happened? "No, I could not think of it," he said, looking quite alarmed. He is not Nils Olof, so he is scared. He is not the true person. He is not revealing a true identity. He thought of the 30 kroner that he had stolen right in the morning. He may lead to a danger by going up to the Manor House. So to go up to the Manor House would be like throwing himself voluntarily into the lion's den. So it is being compared. Lion's den is full of danger. A wild animal, lion, strong, wild animal. Similarly, after stealing 30 kroner in a house in proximity and then going up to the Manor House would be similarly dangerous. He only wanted a chance to sleep here in the forge and then sneak away as inconspicuously. Inconspicuously means as in a hidden way as possible. The ironmaster assumed that he felt embarrassed, he felt shy to go to his big house in such ragged, miserable clothing, wretched clothing. "Please don't think that I have such a fine home that you cannot show yourself there," he said. "Elizabeth is dead." So Elizabeth is the ironmaster's wife. Elizabeth is dead, as you may already have heard. My boys are abroad and there is no one at home except my oldest daughter and myself. We were just saying that it was too bad we did not have any company for Christmas. Now come along with me and help us make the Christmas food disappear a little faster. So the ironmaster thought that his old friend is feeling embarrassed and shy to go to his house, a big house, to the Manor House, and stay there in this pitiful condition with this wretched clothing? So he started consoling the stranger, whom he thought to be his old friend Nils Olof. He told, "Oh my God, do not behave in such way. Don't think I have a big home and you will feel bad. Elizabeth is no more. I think you know that. My boys are not here. Only me and my daughter. Fine, this is Christmas. We will spend time together. Come with me." But the stranger said no and again no, and the ironmaster saw that he must give him. So the stranger was not convinced. He went on repeating no and no because he knows his actual identity. He is not what this man was thinking him to be. "It looks as though Captain Von Stahle preferred to stay with you tonight, Sturgeon Strom," he said to the master blacksmith, and turned on to his hill. So you see, Nils Olof may be the pet name. His good name is Captain Von Stahle. His friend, the ironmaster's friend, whom he was thinking this stranger to be, Captain Von Stahle. And he went away without further persuasion. But he laughed to himself as he went away, and the blacksmith, who knew him, understood very well that he had not said his last word. Something else is yet to come for convincing this old friend of the master. It was not more than half an hour before they heard the sound of carriage wheels outside the forge, and a new guest came in. But this time it was not the ironmaster. He had sent his daughter Underline, apparently hoping that she would have better powers of persuasion than he himself. She entered, followed by a valet, that is a kind of a guard, carrying on his arm a big fur coat. So you see, ironmaster had sent this for his lost, gone friend, his poor friend, and he had sent this fur coat by his daughter, and he had also sent his daughter to convince the uncle to come back, stay with them and spend the Christmas. She was not at all pretty, but seemed very modest and humble and quite shy. In the forge everything was just it had been earlier in the evening. The master blacksmith and his apprentice still sat on their bench, and iron and charcoal still glowed in the furnace. The stranger had stretched himself out on the floor and lay with a piece of pig iron under his head and his hat pulled down over his eyes. As soon as the young girl caught sight of him, she went up and lifted his hat. Now the man was in the habit of sleeping with one eye open. Why? Because he was always cautious. Because right in the beginning we know that he spent his life by petty thievery. So every time he was at the gunpoint, he was very conscious. So he never slept peacefully. Every time he was under the stress. He jumped up abruptly and seemed to be quite frightened. So you see, this man was again sleeping peacefully. He had an intention to spend the night and leave, but the ironmaster had again sent his daughter for convincing this man, his old friend, to come and stay with them and spend the Christmas together. So you see, what are the names ascribed to this Rattrap Peddler? The stranger, the Rattrap Peddler, the ragamuffin, the intruder, the Captain Von Stahle, the vagabond. Okay, so many names. Now, this man jumped up abruptly and seemed to be quite frightened. "My name is Edla Wilmanson," said the young girl. "My father came home and said that you wanted to sleep here in the forge, and then I asked permission to come and bring you home to us. I'm so sorry, Captain, that you are having such a hard time." She looked at him compassionately with her heavy eyes, and then she noticed that the man was afraid. Now, when does a man become afraid? If he does something wrong. This girl was intelligent enough. He was more intelligent than his father, who did not notice the facial expressions of this stranger, whom he considered to be his old friend Captain Von Stahle, alias Nils Olof. She noticed that the man was afraid. Either he has stolen something, or else he has escaped from jail. So the daughter understood, Edla understood that he is afraid, so he might have stolen something or he had escaped from jail. She thought and added quickly to convince him, "You may be sure, Captain, that you will be allowed to leave us just as freely as you came. Only please stay with us over Christmas Eve." She said this in such a friendly manner that the Rattrap Peddler must have felt confidence in her. "It would never have occurred to me that you would bother with me yourself, miss. I will come home at once." So there was something in her words that convinced him. And he decided to go in spite of knowing that he may run the danger of getting caught. He accepted the fur coat underlined which the valet handed him with a deep bow, threw it over his rags, and followed the young lady out to the carriage without granting the astonished blacksmith so much as a glance. But while he was riding up to the manor house, he had evil forebodings, evil premonitions that something something bad is going to happen to me. Why the devil did I take that fellow's money? He thought now I am sitting in the trap and will never get out of it. Again that rat trap thought had set up within his mind. Why did I steal? My God! I know that I am going to fall in the trap. I am already trapped, yet I could not come out. There is something in this girl's words. The next day was Christmas Eve, that was 24th of December, and when the ironmaster came into the dining room for breakfast, he probably thought with satisfaction of his old regimental comrade, whom he had run across so unexpectedly. He was happy to get his old lost friend. "First of all, we must see to it that he gets a little flesh on his bones," he said to his daughter, who was busy at the table. "And then we must see that he gets something else to do than to run around the country selling rat traps. So you see this. I'm sorry, Captain, that you are having a hard time. Please stay with us. You will be allowed to leave us just as freely as you came." This girl understood that this man must have been at fault, yet she invited him. Her heart had that compassion to invite him despite of understanding that he might have done something bad, and that word of compassion and pity helped a lot. This man thought, "I shouldn't have stolen the money. It never occurred to me that you would bother with me yourself." Her friendly manner gave confidence to the Rattrap Peddler.